I want to talk about the NFC South today because, one, I think it's an interesting division because I do believe we have a potential two-horse race on our hands. But then, two, the injury news coming out of this division has been impactful, in my opinion. So I want to start off, as we do with any single betting market, you always got to start off with the favorite. And is this favorite somewhat vulnerable? Is this favorite like rock solid? What is the deal with the favorite? And the favorite going into the season in the NFC South is your four-time defending NFC South champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've been owning this division. Even in the year when they were bad in 2022, when they were 8-9, they still won the damn division with Tom Brady in his last year playing behind center there for the Buccaneers. But this year, big expectations once again for Tampa. Their offense, high expectations, a lot to look forward to with their offensive line and with the skill position guys drafting Emeka Egbuka. There's a lot of excitement on the offensive side of the ball, but I think we need to temper some of that excitement because of a couple of injuries. Now, we got some updated news this morning on their wide receiver Chris Godwin and their left tackle Tristan Wirfs. Both of those veterans will be activated to the 53-man roster. However, because like you hear that news, oh, they're activated, great, they're on track to play. It's going to be a little bit of a slower ramp-up process for both guys, especially Chris Godwin, who's coming off of the broken ankle last October. It doesn't sound like Godwin's coming back until October of this year, and Tristan Wirfs appears to be on that same timeline, according to head coach Todd Bowles. So early in the season, you're not going to have Tristan Wirfs, who, for my money, is the best player on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then Chris Godwin, one of Baker Mayfield's favorite targets, when he's healthy and active, a really reliable wide receiver, whether it's on the outside or in the slot, but particularly in the slot is where he does a lot of his damage. So right off the jump right there, two really impactful players will be missing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers early in the season. Now, why is that important? Well, when you take a look at their schedule to start the year, you'll realize, ruh-roh, Shaggy, Tampa might be in a little bit of trouble coming out of the block. So week one, we discussed this game a little bit yesterday. Obviously, when the schedule came out, we talked about this game quite a bit because it's a high-leverage game. Week one, the Buccaneers are at the Atlanta Falcons. That point spread under a field goal. Tampa, about 1.5, 2, depending on where you do your betting, but a short road favorite as it stands right now on August 21st. Week two, at the Houston Texans. So they have like the unenviable back-to-back roadies to start the season, weeks 1 and week 2. Week 3, they host the New York Jets, seems pretty manageable. Week 4, hosting the Philadelphia Eagles, who they seem to have their number. Like whenever Tampa plays Philly, Tampa has the upper hand in that matchup. We'll see if that comes to fruition in 2025. But going off of recent history, Todd Bowles has owned Jalen Hurts and what he's done schematically against that Philadelphia Eagles offense. But that's the week 4 matchup. Week 5 is at Seattle. Week 6, hosting San Francisco. Week 7 at the Detroit Lions. So you have a difficult 7-game stretch right there. And what really makes it difficult is that without having Tristan Wirfs, like let's say Tristan Wirfs is going to be out for, like, let's say the first 4 to 5 games. Without having Tristan Wirfs, you're going up against the Houston Texans pass rush with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. You're going up against a Jets team that's not great, but at least they can get to the quarterback. You also have the Philadelphia Eagles, who specialize in getting to the quarterback. Seattle, pass rush is decent, but on the road, raucous environment, long travel. Like, you could see how this could really get off the rails. And if Wirfs is not back or is kind of rusty coming back, well, first 2 games back, how about this? Nick Bosa and the Niners, Aiden Hutchinson and the Detroit Lions. Like, this thing can really become problematic for Tampa. And I'm saying all of this just from an injury standpoint before we even get to their defense. So just off the top, I do believe the 4-time defending NFC South champion Buccaneers are vulnerable heading into this season, despite their minus 110 price over at BetMGM. Now, who can take them down? Who's the team that you want to bet to try to take down the Buccaneers after their 4-year stranglehold on this division? I think there's a couple of easy write-offs off the top. Like, we can get into that real quick here. The easy write-off for me, Carolina, I don't think that the optimism is warranted. I know there's been some frisky, the Panthers could be a team. I'm not buying it. Like sorry, guys. I know the Cleveland game in the preseason looked pretty good for Bryce Young. That was also Cleveland's backups. Then they played Houston's backups last weekend, and it was problematic. Do not buy that, Bryce Young looked better in December stuff. Nah, I think that's nonsense. Always be careful of falling for those non-contenders who end the year hot, playing low-stakes football. I don't fall for those kinds of teams, so I'm out on Carolina. Not even to mention that their defense is absolutely atrocious outside of two guys, Derek Brown and J.C. Horn. New Orleans, you're on the clock. That's how I feel about the New Orleans Saints. Like, this team should be looking towards the 2026 NFL draft. Like, what are they doing? Now, roster-wise, I don't dislike the offensive line. In fact, I don't dislike the wide receivers. The quarterbacks, though, massive question mark at best. Is this the year that Spencer Rattler turns into a viable quarterback? Seems unlikely. Tyler Shuck, from what we've seen in the preseason, not very good. And it's funny watching both of these guys in the 2 preseason games. The one who has to start and play like either starters or number 2s has struggled mightily. And then the guy who gets to come in the second half has looked good, which probably means both guys suck, to be quite honest. Like, both guys are probably just really, really bad. So I think right then and there, Carolina and New Orleans, easy write-offs for me when we look at the NFC South, which leaves us with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, like, we got to take a deep breath here real quick because feels like we do this every offseason, right? You at home, listening, watching, if you've been betting on sports the last handful of years, or if you've just been following football the last handful of years, it feels like every offseason we always make the case for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I'll say this. I've actually never been one of those people. I was not one of those people that was trying to make the case of buying into Desmond Ridder as the week 1 starter and thinking that that Falcons team could win the division. I thought that was asinine, and it proved to be asinine as Ridder didn't make it the whole way through the season as he was benched around like the December period. Like, I have never been in on this team, but I do think this year is different. I think this year is different because there's an actual theoretical upside with the guy they have behind center in Michael Penix Jr. Now, we've only seen 3 games. That's not a big data point, but in those 3 games, in that short period of time, you saw a quarterback who was willing to push the ball down the field. That's something the Falcons have not had since Matt Ryan, if we're being honest about it. We also saw a quarterback who was actually able to play under center. They couldn't do that with Kirk Cousins gimping around back there, rehabbing his torn Achilles. Like, Michael Penix Jr. should open things up for this Atlanta Falcons offense. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they made some big bets in the first round that if they hit, this team can really take off. I mean, all indications are telling you that Georgia, Swiss Army knife, front 7 member Jalen Walker, he's going to be playing exclusively at edge rusher is what it sounds like. I like that. Let's keep throwing some numbers at the edge rusher position, a position that has plagued the Falcons even back to their years when they made it to the Super Bowl under Dan Quinn. And then on the other side, here's James Pierce, a guy that they traded up in the first round, traded back into the first round, using a first-round pick for next year to go ahead and get James Pierce Jr. Now, is James Pierce Jr. absolutely focused on football? That could be the knock. He might not love football, is what people tend to say. But if he is locked in, let's not forget that around this time last year, he was thought of as being in the running to be the first overall pick. Like, I'm not making that up. You can go out there and look at some of those June, July draft early thoughts or whatever, those early mock drafts that we kind of like laugh at. He was really high up on those boards as a very highly touted pass rusher coming out of Tennessee. Like, I think the offense has a chance to be really electric with Penix, and the defense, if those 2 pass rushers hit, that is a very formidable defense that all of a sudden goes from being bottom 3rd or below league average to, hey, the Atlanta Falcons might be cooking with some gas and might be a legitimate challenger to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, with all that being said, what do? Here's what you got to do. Before the season starts at BetMGM, you bet the Atlanta Falcons plus 220 to win the NFC South. I think that bet over the first 4 to 5 weeks will age very, very well. And once that bet ages well, then you go back to the betting market and you take a peek at what the price is on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If Tampa's north of plus 200, you could go ahead and bet Tampa, or you could hang on to your Atlanta Falcons bets. But me personally, my goal with this division is to grab both the Bucs and the Falcons at north of 2-1, and then we sit there and make a non-Carolina, non-New Orleans bet and profit in early January.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have ruled the roost in this division, winning it 4 consecutive years. And what's just like funny only to me, maybe, that the last time the Bucs didn't win the division, they won the Super Bowl, which was Tom Brady's first year, the COVID year, when the Saints won the division and then hosted Tampa Bay in the divisional round, and the Bucs obviously won the Super Bowl for Tom's first year in Tampa Bay. Yes, price on Tampa to win the division or to make the playoffs, excuse me. Yes, to make the playoffs, minus 165. No, plus 140. I really like this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. I really do. But I don't like them as much as I did even like a month ago. Tristan Wirfs is likely to miss the beginning of this season. And his absence can't be overstated. He is maybe the singular best offensive lineman in the entire league. He's in the conversation, at the very least. Charlie Heck will fill in. What does, brother? Losing Wirfs is a big deal. Like, let's not minimize it. Chris Godwin, apparently so, is like, I actually think it was this morning when I got the notification on my phone. Chris Godwin will be on the Bucs 53-man roster to start the year. And I'm like, what about all my Emeka Egbuka shares in fantasy? And then the next note was, well, and he's not expected to play until October. Great. That's not good. Jalen McMillan's out until midseason. And then you consider, and think about like this. We talk about like parlays needing to cash both of our bets and then like teams making bets on things happening, right? Think about like how insane the two-leg parlay would be where two consecutive one-year offensive coordinators of a team both become head coach from the same team, both become head coaches. The Bucs cashed it. Dave Canales, head coach in Carolina. Liam Cohen, the head coach in Jacksonville. This is not to say that Josh Grizzard, the new OC, can't be a head coach next year. He could be. Could certainly happen. He could be amazing. I'm a little skeptical that this is going to look as good as it did certainly last year, where Liam Cohen to me is more impressive than Dave Canales. I mean that more as a compliment to Liam Cohen than an insult to Dave Canales, where I think the offense probably takes a little bit of a step back here. And I couple that thought with just an overwhelming, almost sexual appreciation and fascination with Michael Penix Jr. and the Atlanta Falcons offense. I think this offense is going to be filthy this year. Now, we need the offensive line to get healthy. We want Caleb McGarry back. We'll see about the reports on him. And I'm not ready to pull the trigger and pull Tampa out and put Atlanta in. But the Falcons host Tampa in week 1, and they are catching the Bucs at the right time. If you are going to host Tampa Bay, week 1 is when you want it. I love Drake London. I love Bijan Robinson. I love offensive coordinator Zach Robinson. And I love Michael Penix Jr. I'm flirting with the idea of pulling the Bucs out and putting the Falcons in. I'm not there yet. Couple weeks to figure it out. And we'll talk more about that game, Tampa and Atlanta, today and moving forward here on You Better You Bet.